Dawn breaks as Japanese aircraft approach Midway in tight, disciplined formations. They expect another easy victory, unaware a future warship waits silently beyond sight. The Zumwalt's radar detects them over 100 miles away without effort. A single SM-6 missile launches at Mach 3.5 into the early sky. It slams into the formation, transforming clustered aircraft into sudden drifting fragments. Panic erupts instantly as pilots cannot find or even perceive their hidden attacker. More missiles streak upward, striking before the Japanese realize they are targeted. The once flawless formation collapses into chaos within a matter of seconds. Survivors dive or climb desperately, searching for an enemy that remains invisible. Far away, the Zumwalt's crew watches calmly as radar tracks every fleeing aircraft. When the sky quiets, the destroyer shifts focus toward the Japanese carriers. A Tomahawk cruise missile launches low, skimming the waves at high subsonic speed. Lookouts aboard Akagi finally notice the incoming shape too late to react. The missile penetrates the hull, igniting aviation fuel stored deep inside the carrier. Within minutes, flames engulf the ship that once led attacks across the Pacific. For Japan's proud carrier fleet, a new and terrifying kind of warfare has begun. June 4, 1942, marks a decisive turning point in the Pacific War. Japan deploys 4 elite carriers, aiming to crush remaining American naval resistance. Their pilots are experienced, disciplined, and confident in their technological superiority. Midway Atoll stands directly in the path of this massive strike force. Japan hopes to finalize the destruction started at Pearl Harbor 6 months earlier. Yet, an unexpected intruder from the future quietly enters the battlefield that morning. Nothing in 1942 prepared Japan for a stealth vessel beyond imagination. Its presence alone will rewrite every expectation of naval combat that day. Midway becomes a place where 2 vastly different eras collide violently. The battle is no longer simply historical, it becomes a technological impossibility. The USS Zumwalt is a 15,000-ton destroyer, engineered for 21st century warfare. Its angular tumble-home hull deflects radar, mimicking the signature of a small fishing boat. 80 vertical launch cells provide overwhelming missile versatility and striking power. SM-6 missiles intercept aircraft far beyond the limits of 1942 radar. Tomahawk missiles strike targets hundreds of miles away with precise programmed routes. ESSM defenses protect the ship from anything approaching dangerously close. The ship's AGS guns exist, but lack ammunition after their costly rounds were canceled. Advanced AESPY-3 radar tracks hundreds of moving targets
when a target
while processing terrain clutter effortlessly. Its combat system guides interceptors with computing power inconceivable to wartime engineers. 30 knots of speed combined with 78 megawatts of silent electrical propulsion. Its noise signature is so low it blends with ordinary ocean background sounds. In 1942, such a vessel would appear supernatural in both power and stealth. Japan's carrier force includes Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, each a floating offensive powerhouse. Over 270 skilled pilots operate Zero fighters, Kate bombers, and Val dive bombers. Many have trained since the early 1930s and dominated numerous Pacific campaigns. Their confidence stems from relentless victories and unmatched aerial coordination. Battleships like Yamato support them with 18-inch guns capable of immense destruction. However, these ships rely on visual spotting and primitive fire control methods. Without advanced radar, they must see their opponents before even attempting engagement. Their maximum engagement range rarely exceeds 25 miles in ideal conditions. Against modern standoff weapons, such limitations leave them critically exposed. The gap between eras becomes a decisive factor before the battle even begins. At 0430, 108 Japanese aircraft lift off confidently toward Midway. Their formation tightens into an efficient spear aimed directly at the American outpost. The Zumwalt detects them instantly and evaluates their trajectory with perfect clarity. Combat algorithms calculate engagement timing long before the pilots sense danger. First SM-6 launches, leaving a glowing trail as it accelerates upward. Moments later, a cluster of aircraft disintegrates under the missile's precise impact. Shock spreads through the formation as pilots struggle to understand the sudden losses. Additional missiles rise like silent predators, hunting targets across the distant sky. Zero fighters attempt evasive turns but cannot detect or outrun the incoming threats. Kate bombers scatter downward, hoping low altitude will hide them from destruction. Val dive bombers climb higher, only to be intercepted instantly by tracking algorithms. Within minutes, half the attacking force vanishes from existence without spotting their enemy. Reports reach Admiral Nagumo, claiming invisible attacks and impossible losses. Though skeptical, he orders a second massive wave to launch immediately. 170 additional aircraft lift off, believing Midway remains the true target. The Zumwalt repositions stealthily, avoiding easy detection by outdated sensors. Its radar displays incoming aircraft like targets in a modern training simulator. SM-6 missiles streak upward again, cutting through the atmosphere without warning. Zero fighters renowned for agility crumble instantly under the precise intercepts. Torpedo-carrying Kate bombers ignite mid-air, falling like flaming debris into the ocean. Veteran Japanese pilots feel powerless against a foe they cannot track or defeat. Their formations dissolve as panic spreads across the group. Survivors abandon their attack mission and attempt a desperate retreat. By the time they withdraw, the aerial threat to Zumwalt no longer exists. With the skies cleared, the Zumwalt shifts to long-range offensive operations. Tomahawk missiles launch low and fast, skimming just above the ocean surface. Their radar-evading flight paths confuse all 1942 detection systems. The missiles close in on the carrier's last known coordinates with silent precision. Lookouts aboard Akagi first notice a small silhouette racing toward them. The Tomahawk slams through the hull and triggers catastrophic internal explosions. Aviation fuel ignites instantly, engulfing the carrier in uncontrollable flames. Kaga suffers a similar fate as another missile strikes its vulnerable compartments. Soryu erupts after a delayed explosion sends fire across its entire hangar deck. Hiryu, the final carrier, burns fiercely after multiple guided strikes land flawlessly. Within one morning, 4 crown jewels of Japan's naval power are doomed. The Pacific suddenly becomes a battlefield transformed by impossible technology. Despite its power, the Zumwalt carries only 80 missiles in total. Heavy combat quickly drains its magazine, reducing its ability to sustain operations. Without GPS satellites, navigation and precision guidance depend entirely on onboard sensors. There are no compatible supply chains to replace damaged components. Every malfunction becomes a critical threat with no external support available. Japanese submarines still lurk beneath the waves, waiting patiently for opportunity. The I-168 submarine possesses torpedoes capable of sinking the destroyer instantly. Sonar gives the Zumwalt an advantage. Yet one oversight could prove fatal. A single successful torpedo strike would end this technological miracle abruptly. The crew remains vigilant, scanning constantly for hidden underwater threats. Victory depends on flawless operation throughout an unfamiliar and hostile environment. Even the most advanced vessel cannot escape the risks of wartime unpredictability. If Zumwalt survives, the Battle of Midway becomes history's most one-sided naval victory. Japan loses irreplaceable carriers, hundreds of elite pilots in a single morning. Its Pacific offensive collapses completely, altering the strategic landscape forever. American losses remain incredibly small compared to the destruction inflicted on Japan. Survivors describe an unseen destroyer striking from impossible distances. Rumors spread of a ghostly warship that stalks the battlefield silently. The mysterious vessel becomes known as the Phantom of Midway. It represents 74 years of technological progress overwhelming an older era. The battle demonstrates how future warfare can rewrite history with overwhelming precision. And so, the legend of the Phantom Destroyer remains one of war's greatest impossibilities.